Hi, my name is Amanda Leslie, and I'm going to talk about Module 9, the case study. So I'm going to summarize the case. Richard Inman is the principal at Rockford Junior High. Richard is faced with the hard decision to follow school policy when a bully named James involves a boy named David, who is an honors student, in breaking the school policy involving possession of weapons. After a teacher saw the exchange between the two boys, she immediately called Richard. The two boys were brought into the office and questioned. Both boys were handcuffed and were taken down to the juvenile detention center, and they were both expelled. Richard knows that David is innocent and that James admitted that what he did was all his fault. David's mother is upset, and both Richard and David's mother knows that this incident will ruin David's chances in school. James's mother said she didn't care, that he deserves to be where he is. Richard, the principal, then decides not to follow through with expelling David, the honor student, and shows and models ethical behavior. This is going against school policy and gets Richard written up for not complying with school policy. So to back it up a little bit, James is a kid who comes from a tougher part of town, and where, in this case, they know that the children from this part of town do not really succeed in school. Well, Richard, the principal, took it into his own hands to start building relationships with these students. And he started playing basketball after school with James and started building a relationship with him. James then turned around and started doing better in school. And that's where he grew a lot when he admitted that what happened was all his fault. Any legal or ethical issues, the possession of a weapon, which in this case was brass knuckles, the boys had possession of on school grounds, was a violation of the school policy and the law. The boys involved were charged with a felony. No one was harmed by this action, but James the bully did admit that he was planning on using the weapon after school. A breach of contract was broken also when Richard, the principal, decided to not follow through with the expulsion of David, who was the honor student, which did not follow the school policy, where the school policy states that both children have to be expelled because they were both involved in a felony. Not following the school policy can get Richard in trouble and even written up for not complying with the school's policy. Exactly what happened was the school principal, Richard, must determine if the school's policy for expelling both students is ethical. Synthesize the facts. The people who were involved in this case were David, who was the honor roll student, who has never been in trouble before, and the only account that the principal has talked to David was after a band concert to congratulate him. James is the bully, who has been in trouble multiple times, and he admits to having the weapon in this situation. And then Richard, the principal, who has determined to be ethical and follow the school's policy, or not. The place where this happened was the exchange of the weapon took place in the hallway, where it was spotted by a teacher. The arrest happened in the principal's office. In the program, the students are in junior high. James is 15 years old and David is 13 years old. There is a school policy that is in place that deals with weapons. When students bring weapons, in this case the brass knuckles, to school, it is a violation of the school's policy and the law. If other parents, students, and staff find out about this incident, it will cause panic and in sense become a bigger issue. From the information that we have, the other staff and students are not aware of the situation. For everyone involved, and with the type of weapon that was used, it would be best if the situation stays private. The decision to only expel one student rather than both students was driven by the behavior and reputation of the students involved, and the weapon was not used in any way. In this particular case, I believe that Richard made an ethical decision when he decided not to punish David. There are a few options to consider. The first option is to decide not to expel either child. David is a very good student who was bullied into this situation, and then James has become more mature and admitted that this was all his fault, and the weapon was not used to harm any staff or students. The second option would be to follow the school's policy and expel both students because of it being a felony. There are some intermediate strategies that could be used instead of being expelled. It can consist of suspending the students for a few days, having the students do some type of detention, community service, or counseling. Richard evaluates, communicates about, and advocates for ethical decisions. The options, not expelling either student, there's some pros and cons. Some cons, if the word gets out and people find out about the situation, it could cause repeat offenses. Meaning, they can tell that because only one child got in trouble, or neither child gets expelled, then it shows that the bully got away with what he was intending to do. That in this case, nobody would get in trouble. So more kids would be like, okay, now I can do something and not get in trouble for it. Some pros would be that this will not affect David's future. He's an amazing student and his future of school would be on track. And then it also Richard would not be reprimanded for not expelling the students. The other option was to expel both students. Some cons, David's future is affected. He will have a felony on his record, which could cause a lot of issues trying to go to different colleges and getting different jobs. Some pros, Richard will not be breaking any policies. If he followed the school's policies to expel both students, he wouldn't be breaking any, so he wouldn't have anything on his record in the future. Richard should choose not to expel David and keep him in school because he was bullied into the situation. Bullying was involved, and so David should not be in any type of trouble for this because it wasn't his plan to use the brass knuckles. David still should be taught the severity of the situation and should be offered counseling daily for his bullying and for this whatever happened. The board and stakeholders will be informed of this decision. After James gets expelled, David should be brought back to school. Richard should hold a meeting with David's mother, and the school counselor. They should discuss the severity of the situation so that David will be very aware of the possible issues that could have arisen. James should be expelled, but have daily or weekly meetings with the administration and counselors to talk about different ways that he can handle his anger and to help him continue to follow the right track, which he was going on with building the relationships with Richard, the principal. The staff and school board will be made aware of this situation. And if the school board comes back and says that David needs to be expelled, as well with James, Richard needs to stand up and fight for his ethical decision to only expel James. Richard has considered David's future and that it could be ruined because of the incident. The only ethical decision is to not expel David, and in the end, this could cause Richard to lose his job.